Hi, my name is David. I work with Gear West. We are here this evening with Alayna Sonnesyn and Zak Ketterson. We have a unique opportunity where they are leaving next week to participate in the World Cup this year. And we have the evening here. We're going to just ask Alayna and Zak some questions and get an idea for what life is like on the World Cup. Why don't we start with Alayna? She can introduce herself and just tell us a little bit about her skiing career.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Plymouth, Minnesota, just down the street from Gear West, and my parents taught me how to ski from a very young age, and I learned through Minnesota Youth Ski League, and then joined the Wayzata middle school and high school ski team. And that entire time, I was coming into Gear West, looking at new skis and getting fitted for a new pair of classic skis as a middle schooler. And Gear West has been a huge part of that childhood and that development for me as a skier. And then I've been skiing ever since, and now I'm a professional skier for Team Berkey and living back in Minneapolis and chasing some dreams all over the world.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Zak Ketterson. I grew up in Bloomington, which is a little south of here. And I didn't actually get into skiing until 7th grade, so grew up doing more traditional American sports like basketball and football and baseball, and honestly wanted to be in the NFL the whole time I was a kid, but found my way to skiing in middle school because my brother was on the high school team, and he one way or another talked me into it, and weirdly enough it ended up being the sport that I had the most talent for, I guess, as much as I would have liked that to be football. But I'm a competitive guy, so I just stuck with the sport that I was the best at, and luckily learned to really love it along the way. And was able to ski in college at Northern Michigan University, which is not too far east from here, and moved back to the city after that and joined Team Berkey, and have been on the team now 4 years, skiing professionally as well as being on the U.S. ski team. So it's been a fun journey so far.
Cool. So you guys both grew up in Minneapolis. Can you talk a little bit about how Minneapolis kind of shaped you as a skier?
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota Youth Ski League is Minneapolis and back and forth, they support each other, and I guess that community with MYSL really helped develop me as a skier. In other ways, I also think that I grew up being used to the cold, and not to quote Frozen Elsa, but the cold never bothered me. And so I think that having developed in such frigid temperatures, we go to northern Finland, and it's really, really cold when we race there, and that doesn't really bother me. And also we travel to Sweden and Norway, and in Scandinavia, there's so much Scandinavian culture in the US or in Minnesota specifically, and I feel like I grew up kind of with that culture, and so it feels like I'm still home when I'm in Norway and Sweden too. And so I think that Minnesota, Minneapolis, it's kind of like a mecca for cross-country skiing in the U.S. There's so much enthusiasm, and everyone loves it here, and I think that I've just kind of carried that with me wherever I go to.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have such an awesome high school league, and I think every young skier's dream growing up in Minnesota is to win the Minnesota State meet. So I think it's really fortunate that I had that as a sort of motivator for me when I started out skiing. And then just honestly having access to so many knowledgeable coaches and really fast teammates, because we're in this place where within a 30-minute radius in any direction you have all sorts of different clubs and high school teams, and guys who went to the Olympics, guys who skied World Cup 20, 30 years ago. And so for just having, my parents happened to move here with me when I was 6 years old, and it just so happened to be like one of the best places to be a skier in the U.S. in my opinion, just because of all the access to knowledge and other good skiers.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that you touched on all the clubs here in Minneapolis, and that's one of I grew up in rural Maine, and it was a much different time when I was starting to ski. I had a much different path than the two of you. I didn't really get serious about skiing until I was a senior in high school, and back then we didn't have as many clubs and we didn't have as much coaching. So I was kind of piecing things together just with coaches that I that I met along the way. My college coach, I went to Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. My college coach was Becky Woods, who is still in the sport now. She's, I think, the program director out at Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation. But anyway, it was just a much different time, and the clubs just had not really evolved. Team Berkey and all these clubs that are giving you such great support now just were not around. So I was piecing together support through financial sponsors that I, picked up myself. I had to piece together most of the coaching help that I had after I graduated from college. So a different time. But anyway, let's. So you guys are going to the World Cup. Can you talk a little bit about your racing goals coming up here?
I'm super excited for Period 1 of the World Cup. This will be my third time going back to Period 1, and it's in mostly Scandinavia, which I, again, love as a Minnesotan. And I am really prioritizing this period, actually, for myself. It's a long season, and oftentimes people have different approaches on how they want to enter a season, whether that means they're approaching it like guns blazing, they're ready to go, or maybe they're going to come in more moderately and focus on the middle half of the season. But I'm pretty fired up about just the training I've been doing recently with Team Berkey, and I'm excited to kind of show that in the first period, and hoping it goes well. I don't really know. I've been doing a lot of different things, and so it'll be a really good test. And I think that particularly some of the long skate races that we'll have in Period 1, I'm very excited for. It brings me back to my Berkey days, so that's kind of what I'm excited for.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited for Trondheim World Championships in February, because last summer I actually got to spend a few months living out there. My wife Julie, her family owns an apartment out there, and so we basically moved in for a little bit, and I was training in the summer on a roller ski course that's just paved along the exact course that we'll be racing in February. So I think it would be such a cool opportunity to get to participate. Yeah, just having that kind of behind the scenes vision, the behind the scenes experience of training there in the summer and then get to race there in the winter. And I feel like Norway always puts on a really good show too for World Cups, but especially Olympics or World Champs. Like I think they said they already sold like 100,000 tickets or something. So I feel like it'll be a really, really cool atmosphere, and yeah, just a little like extra personally special too.
Cool. So you talk about the support that you have. What Team Berkey, how did they provide you with the support network that you need to go forward here?
Can I go first? Because you've
Yeah,
been
sure.
with them.
Yeah, so I mean, prior to Team Berkey starting 4 years ago, there was no professional ski team in the Midwest. So you had all these really talented and successful high school, college skiers, Alayna, for example, who didn't really have a choice but to go somewhere out east or out west. So I think it's so awesome that Team Berkey has now stepped in to fill that gap, and it worked out super well with me graduating in 2021, the same year that Team Berkey started. So I was able to be a part of that first year, and it's been a really awesome experience to get to see it grow. And by now the support is really, really good. I mean, we have healthcare through a partnership with a hospital in Hayward, Wisconsin, and we have world-class coaching. We have really good financial assistance, and just, they basically help us with whatever you could think of that is important for a cross-country skier. So it's a really one-stop package for skiers who want to live here in the Twin Cities, which is such a good place to live. And they've really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, there's not much to add to that because Zach did such a great job of explaining it. But really, if there's ever, an area where an athlete feels like they might need support or additional resources, all it takes is reaching out to the staff at Team Berkey and saying, like, is there a way to help me find this, or can we figure this out? And the team's going to figure something out for you. And it might not be right away or perfect, but it's a great option still. And that's been really helpful for me. I'm relatively new to the team, just joined this year, but I'm really excited to be back in Minneapolis, where I'm from. As Zach mentioned, there wasn't a team here when I graduated college, and so I went and continued to ski in Vermont for a team there. And I think what Team Berkey also allows as a support system is this opportunity to reconnect with the entire community in Minneapolis. And for me, that means my family, my friends that I grew up with here, the people who I learned how to ski with. And that is the support system that I take with me everywhere. But I'm able to then spend these summer and fall months here with them, training with my family, with my friends, seeing them and having a little bit more of that life balance that is really important. Even as an elite athlete, it's important to still be connected to that community. And I think that type of support is really valuable from the team.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, very good. So another topic, we talk a lot about mental health these days. How do you guys take care of your mental health during the season? And, just with all of the things that you're doing and all the traveling and the competition, how do you take care of yourself?
I personally have been seeing a sports psych for a few years now, and I think that's been really beneficial. I also didn't continue to see the same psych over the course of the couple of years. Some things were working really well and some things I was looking for more of, and so I continued to kind of search for ways that I could build out that support system and have it really click for me. And I think that has been really beneficial. With some of the work that I've done with that sports psych, it's helped me approach each race a little bit differently and approach with a more positive mindset. And there are so many external factors, but really at the end of the day, leaning into this idea that you can only control your own controllables, and there are so many things out of your control. When you're recently finally wrapped my head around is this idea that some of those controllables, it's not just about showing up with the right attire when it's really cold, or fueling well, because yes, those are really important things to control, but it's also, can you control how someone else is going to treat you, or can you control someone else's reaction to a race? And you can't. And so kind of those external uncontrollables that all you can do is then control how you react to someone else, or how you react to someone treating you. And team dynamic is a huge part of life on the road and a huge part of mental health also. And so that's something that I've been continuing to work on over the last year or so, and making sure that I'm the person I want to be, and the people who mean the most to me and the sport that means the most to me is how I want to kind of continue to facilitate those relationships.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think the whole mental health conversation just didn't happen when I was starting as an athlete, graduating from college and starting to do this on my own. So it's really cool that you see all of the athletes these days just confronting it and talking about it and taking care of themselves. It's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the challenges with being a professional athlete is to not get too tied up in your identity as a person mixing with your performance. It's, easy when you're racing really well that you're riding cloud nine, you feel super confident and good about yourself, and then when you have a stretch of 2 or 3 bad weeks of racing, you just are down in the pits and can get depressed and just feel like you've lost a lot of your self-worth. So I think it's actually been one of the things that I love about living in Minneapolis is that I get to remember what is Zach outside of skiing. Like, I like to go to Timberwolves games, I like to hang out with my friends, I like to go out to eat, and I have a amazing wife and family and all these things that have nothing to do with cross-country skiing. So yeah, it can kind of help to remember that when you have 2 or 3 bad races, that I'm still Zach even if I was slow these 2 races. And so my self-worth has nothing to do with whether I am on the podium or whether I'm 90th place, because both, as much as I want to be on the podium every day, it's a sport where it's hard to consistently be at your best.
I think something that is key is validating yourself with this idea that, cross-country skiing isn't Zach, and Zach isn't cross-country skiing, but Zach does cross-country skiing, and he's good at cross-country skiing. It doesn't define him, but it's something that he does really well, and I think that's a huge part of being able to kind of you're passionate about something, you're really, really passionate about it, but it does not define who you are or value who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and this next question I think about a lot because I'm a new father here. I have a son who's 9 and I have a two-week-old now. And I think a lot about just passing on advice and the things that I would tell young athletes these days. So I'm just curious what you guys would tell young people that are thinking about competing, through high school and beyond. What are the sorts of things that, the advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think focusing on sustainability in your career, just with your training, with the way that you treat yourself and your teammates, like, it's a really long career. I'm 27 years old and could still realistically ski for, as far as like skiers prime is concerned, I probably still have a good, 6 or 7 years left in me. So I think it's important to remind some of these 14-year-olds just like how much they have ahead of them, and that if they have a bad state meet or if they have a bad junior nationals, it's okay. And the important thing is to just have fun and just keep making progress, and it's almost never linear.
Yeah.
So I think I could look back, probably Alayna too, at a lot of times where I was way too hard on myself and thought, I was never going to be a good skier because I had a really bad World Juniors or a really bad whatever. And just remembering, just how not linear it is, and just that it's important to keep a level head, I guess.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Okay, we shift gears a little bit. You guys both have equipment sponsors. Alayna, you're sponsored by Solomon, Zak, Rosenau. We're just kind of curious how you go about managing your equipment throughout the season, how you keep everything organized, and any thoughts you might have on your equipment.
There's a lot to deal with.
It is, yes. Yeah.
At this level, we have more skis than we can travel with.
Yep.
And you have to be very strategic in terms of what skis you're bringing to which races or which periods of races that you're going to compete at. And I'm very fortunate, David, you are helping me keep track of that equipment this year because it is a lot. And so, we have a spreadsheet of the skis. We have our skate and our classic skis, and the A skis and the B skis, and we're hanging on to those B skis because they've shown that they have value, and we don't want to get rid of them. But they're not always as high in priority, and so that's super helpful to have you and to have the team at Gear West helping me with the ski grinds and making sure that I'm ready to go. And then obviously the team at Solomon too, over in France, and the local Solomon team, they're helping me make sure that if there's any gaps in my fleet that they can try to fix that. And it's also great to be such good friends with someone like Jessie Diggins, who also skis on Solomon, and she's got a pair that she's not using, then maybe I can go test them out. And so that's really helpful, but it does take a lot of people, a lot of time. Waxing in the winter, we're not waxing our own skis on the World Cup. We have to have a tech come with us, which again, David, you're coming over to help me for one of the races, and I'm super grateful for that. And so it is a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, but I also think to some extent at the World Cup level, like, we overcomplicate things a little bit. Like, no one needs like 6 pairs of cold skate skis, 10 pairs of warm classic skis. Like, I think at the end of the day, I could probably get away with having 1 or 2 pairs of each, like, cold skate, cold classic type of thing. Like, a lot of it just ends up being throwing a bunch of skis on the trail on a race day and just like being really confused. So we have a big team of techs and coaches who help us sort that puzzle out, but I don't think the average like consumer is really missing out on anything by not having 50 pairs of skis. Like, often we'll go through a season racing on the same like 3 pairs of skis every single race. So like it's definitely not necessarily like a problem if you don't have a wax truck of your own skis following you around.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me. When I was racing and when I did World Cups, I don't think the U.S. ski team had the same level of comfort in Europe. I think we were kind of always looked as kind of the outsider. We had something to prove when we were over there. that's changed in the last 10 years. I mean, with some of the results that both of you had, but also, Jesse and some of the medals that you've won at the Olympics. So, you changed brands 2 years ago, and talk a little bit about how you navigate that, because, a lot of the support from Rossi are, the Europeans that are a part of the brand, and they're giving you that support. Like, how do you navigate that as far as, the equipment that you
Yeah,
have?
I mean, it's a lot of work because
Yeah.
you find your favorite pairs and you start to find pairs that are really reliable too. So with my old brand Modsus, I had spent, 3 years dialing down my fleet to the point where I could just know, here's the type of snow, here's the temperature, like I got a pair for that for sure.
Yeah.
But then you give back all your skis, get however many new ones, and you just have to completely start from scratch in terms of like tons of testing, tons of trial and error basically. And so in a lot of ways, sometimes you immediately can find something that's better, but often it's just a ton of work. But
Yeah.
I think by now, 3 years into it, I'm in a really good place
Better
with
place,
it. But
yeah.
I mean, I definitely couldn't do it alone.
Yeah, yeah. And you changed brands 2 years ago as well.
Yeah, and I would say it's similar. It takes a while to figure out. One, a lot of the ski brands build different types of skis,
Yeah.
and so something like a Rossignol compared to a Salomon, they're very different in terms of how you can kind of get the energy out of each ski and what's more efficient when you're skiing down a track. And so getting used to like the type of ski that the brand creates is its own undertaking, and then getting to know each specific ski for which conditions and when you're going to use it is another. And so it is a lot of work, but I feel fortunate that I've had a few years now with Salomon and feel good about it.
Yeah, and it's cool just to see the R&D that the brands have put in themselves the last 10, 15 years. I think it's changed a lot since I was racing.
Yeah.
The skis are more consistent, and they're just better quality in my opinion. So, and you guys are lucky. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing you see more these days too is that like the newer technology is like almost always better. And
Yeah,
I'm not just
right.
saying that for marketing purposes. Like you don't really see as many people skiing on like old stuff anymore.
Right.
Because like
Yeah.
Rossignol will come out with like a new mold, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is way better. Like
Yeah.
get out all the old stuff, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
so the technology is really crazy,
Yeah.
and we get to experience it firsthand, which is like I feel very lucky.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Anything else?
Any questions?
Let's go ahead. Yeah. How about
Go you, Jan. Any questions?
Well, I don't know if I can speak.
You go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me get
I
work.
was just, I gotta think it, before I had a question of just what Team Berkey was made out of, which is other local groups. So Team Berkey gets money from the Berkey and the Lopit and I think those are
NCXC
major,
too.
what?
NCXC.
NCXC, yes. So I think that's interesting angle because they're all pretty much local supporting local, supporting local. So you've got a really depth there, and I from now being old and just being on boards instead of ski racing a whole lot, it's just interesting to. I like to have people understand where their entry fee goes to these events and why they should be paying trail usage and all that stuff, because it feeds into supporting who I believe is not only important for obviously getting results, but man, this industry wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for all of us who love skiing and came back and continued with the sport in some way or another, and what both of you give back to a healthy lifestyle to young people, and bringing that back and that message to young people who really need it as they're faced with so many different obstacles. So you guys have a message of health and sort of stick-to-itiveness that I think is super important and super valuable, and that can't be taken away. I mean, it's probably built on having all sorts of results. So I feel that's really cool, and for anybody that complains about some of the prices of just using the trails and joining these clubs, there's many different types of paybacks.
Yeah, the bigger mission. Yeah. It's cool.
Well, and I think that's a perfect example of just how great a community cross-country skiing is, and it's a system that supports each other. And it's not fair to just take and never give. And I think that's why Zach and I are always very excited to try to interact with the community whenever we can, because we feel like Team Berkey has been so supportive of us and has given us so much that we just want to be able to give back to Team Berkey or the American Birkebeiner Foundation or the Wapit or CXC Skiing or Gear West or any of the high schoolers that are in Minnesota or Wisconsin. And we just want to try to be here for them. And I think one thing that just reminds me of what I would have said to my younger self, or maybe any middle school or high schooler who's out there listening, is definitely just to believe in yourself and take a chance on yourself, because you never know what could happen. And I didn't know that I was going to be able to ski for a Division I college, and that was going to help pay for my education, and that I was going to be able to podium at NCAA championships. Like, I never ever thought any of that was going to happen, or that I would be racing World Cup or racing and winning Birkebeiners. Like, that's something that I just never even crossed my mind until it slowly began to build when I was in middle school and high school. And then I started believing in myself and saying, like, yes, I'm going to move out to Vermont, even though it's scary. I'm going to go to college out there and try something new and believe in myself in that way. And so there's some incredible opportunities to have with cross-country skiing, and it can provide people with so many amazing experiences that it's worth taking the chance on yourself for.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that can really wrap it up, because it's sort of a lifelong sport, and it pays back in so many different ways. And I think the quality of people that cross country ski are about top 10. So